Hello, my name is Ollie Martin.
My name is Angela Lowe.
Um, for the people that don't know, this is my mother, and
Hi.
the next clip is gonna be me and her when I was one. All right, now, um, how was life for you as a kid?
Wow. Life for me as a kid was great. I can remember going to school every day. I lived really close to the school, so I could walk to school every day, and my mom would stand at the end of the street watching me and my sister walk to school. I can remember as a kid having a lot of friends around the neighborhood that I would ride my bike with. I would go play baseball, play basketball. It was just very carefree. We were outside most of the days in the summer and on the weekend. For the most part, everybody in the neighborhood, we got along with each other pretty good. Some of my friends had older siblings, so um, I can remember wishing that I had like older siblings and an older brother that I never had. But as a kid growing up, everything was just, for me, pretty stressless and a whole lot of fun.
As you got older, what were some of the things that you had to go through, like life-wise?
Well, I can remember when I was in the fifth grade, I can remember my grandfather getting really, really sick. And I remember as a young kid seeing him being really sick. It was pretty scary for me to go and visit with him and sit with him and talk to him because he looked very different than how I remembered him. And I remember the hardest part was when he passed away. I was in the fifth grade, and I can remember just like it was yesterday, my aunt that did not live in town at the time, she was trying to rush to get there before my grandfather passed away, and she made it about maybe 30 minutes after he passed away. And they were really, really close. And I can remember her crying and screaming. And I remember as a kid not really fully understanding um, what it meant to lose anybody. That was the first person that was significant in my life that I lost as a kid. And so that was a experience that changed our family dynamics.
And the next clip is gonna be a picture with her and her grandparents that was on her dad's side. Okay. Um, like how did that change your life, like in the long run, if it did at all?
What, losing my grandfather?
Yes.
It changed my life in a way that I did not have a grandfather or actually any grandparents on my mother's side because my mom's mom, my maternal grandmother, passed away when my mom was 13. So I never got to meet her at all. So I would hear stories about her. And so when my grandfather passed away, I didn't have any grandparents on my mom's side, which was very, very different from how it was when we would have our family to get-togethers. So the biggest change, I think, was appreciating my grandparents on my dad's side because I didn't have any more on my mother's side. And so I just tried to make sure that I would go visit with my grandparents on my dad's side, spend time with them, enjoy them, learn as much stuff as I could from them, so that I could make sure that I had some grandparents that were actually a part of my life. So it changed for me as far as me being very intentional about spending time with my dad's parents.
How was it the first time you moved, like, outside of your parents' house? So, like, how did that change, like, your life?
Okay. Well, for me, I didn't move out of my parents' house until I was 25. You were a year and a half when I actually moved out of my parents' house, because when I was at home, I stayed at home all during my college years. My parents did not want me to leave from home, so I decided to stay at home. I commuted to college for all the years until I graduated. And so when I moved out, I was 25, you were a year and a half, and we moved about 5 minutes from my parents' house. And it was a little bit, I was nervous when I moved out at first because I'd never been out on my own. I always had my parents around. I always had family around. And then because you were so young, I was a little nervous because I kept thinking, wow, we are really going to be on our own without my parents, helping and giving advice and all of that. So, what changed really after moving out was just I had to be responsible for everything on my own. I went literally from being a student to working a new full time job to having you as a 1.5 year old, which was a lot going on at one time. But we adjusted. It was a lot of fun. We had fun times together when he was really, really little. Um, it was just, I had to grow up really quickly, even though I was 25, and I had to learn how to take care of you. I had to learn how to take care of myself, take care of us, and just make sure that everything went smoothly. So it was a big adjustment moving out just because it was new in every way it could possibly be new, for me and for us.
Okay, what do you miss the most about, like, your childhood that you wish you could, like, go back to?
The What I miss the most about my childhood is really just having the time that I spent with my family, um, because we had a lot of fun. We had game nights, we had pizza nights, we had chicken nights, we had a lot of family times, and I miss that about childhood is me, my sister, my parents being able to all be together in the same house, enjoying each other, laughing, and playing games. So I would say that's what I miss most about my childhood, is it just being very carefree, stress-free, and fun.
How did 9/11 affect you, like, before and after it happened? Like, what did you do before that you had to change, like, after 9/11?
Well, I can remember when 9/11 happened, I was in college at that time, and I can remember not even being fully aware how major it was for 9/11 to happen. I remember being at school, and I remember getting a phone call from my sister who was telling me that planes flew into the towers. And I heard her, but I didn't think it was anything really, really major. I was actually thinking it was like a accident that just happened until the school shut down. They sent us all home. They told us they would let us know when we're going to return. And when I got home, I was listening to the news and watching and seeing everything happen as they were recording it. And it was a big deal. And after that, there was a lot of anxiety going on with a lot of my friends, a lot of my classmates who, anytime I can remember, anytime we would hear an airplane and it sounded like it was kind of close to us or closer to the ground, we would get nervous and people would look in the sky and they would always think back to 9/11 and wonder if anybody was ever going to attack our country again. So I just remember, for me, hearing a lot of people talking about their experiences, and I can remember at that time feeling kind of anxious, wondering like, well, what was going to happen next, if anything was going to happen next. So it definitely was a time that created a lot of anxiety, and just concern that we were going to be attacked again. And then by us living in Dayton, close to the Air Force Base, that was something that was of concern, that the Air Force Base would be targeted because of the popularity of it. So that was a whole nother concern, was just that we might be close to an attack, just being local and being in Dayton. So that's what I can remember, is just kind of being more cautious about surroundings and people and airplanes and anything that reminded me of what they reported happened during 9/11.
Okay. And then, how did things like school shootings and stuff like affect you after, like, you started hearing about them? Like, what differences did you make?
Well, I know one of the biggest differences it made for me was, for a lot of years I would go into schools doing contract work, and I can remember thinking about all of their protocols and security measures, and how noticing that the more school shootings that occurred, the more secure the schools were becoming that I was going in. Like, I couldn't just, walk in and go to my office or go to a classroom. You had to check in, you had to sign in. All of the doors were locked at all of the main entrances. You couldn't just leave out of any door that you chose to leave to, because they were trying to really monitor every exit, every entrance, and making sure that they kept track of everybody as they were going into the building. So I just know that the school procedures changed a whole lot. And so it wasn't just as easy for me to go in as a contractor to service the kids and their families. But I also noticed the kids in the school being more afraid at times when they were having like their tornado drills, the fire drills. Anytime the school had to go on a lockdown procedure because something might have been just going on down the street from the school, and then they had to lock the school down for a reason that was unrelated to the school, but just the kids being more anxious and on edge about what might happen to them while they're at school, so not feeling very safe. So I just know, for me and just my everyday work, going into schools was very much so different, and it wasn't as easy or as carefree to roam around in the schools and to get in and to get out.
About this new normal, like about the pandemic and stuff, how do you feel you've changed, like about your everyday things in life? Like, how is it, like, what are you doing different?
Well, I know that before the pandemic, it seemed like I was at the grocery store almost every day or every other day. So I do not go into the grocery stores like I used to go. I order everything online. I'm picking up groceries instead of shopping for groceries. On the rare occasion I have to go into the store, I'm wearing a mask. I have my hand sanitizer. When I go to the gas stations, I am wearing gloves. It's just caused me to be very, very cautious and conscious about keeping my hands clean, keeping my clothes clean, not um, touching a lot of people or not hugging a lot of people, just keeping a safe distance from people, which is completely opposite of how I actually am. If I see people in the store that I know that I haven't seen in a while, we usually hug each other. I'm usually greeting people, and I do not do that right now with everything being the way it is. So it's just very unnatural. It's very, very cautious and just making sure that if I do go out in public or I have to go to the store or I have to do something, that I'm just being very cautious. And even that doesn't occur but maybe one time a week now, versus me being able to have the liberty to go freely every day or every other day. So it's kept me at home with you guys more, um, which is nice, but it's definitely different. And it's kind of a hassle when you run out of something and then you can't just decide to just go for one thing or for two things. You gotta kind of plan it out, or you just don't have it until you can order your food again. So that's just how things have become for me. Is it's just not so free to just go like I usually would, and I have to plan and I have to order a lot of things online, of which I really actually like going to the store and seeing people and talking to people and picking out my groceries myself. So it is definitely different for me.
Okay. This is how we have to leave the house, since the pandemic has happened. And, in the past, like before this pandemic and stuff happened, like you probably would have got questioned for wearing a mask like this, but now you get questioned for not wearing a mask like this. Okay, that will be all for this video. Thank you for watching, and thank you for letting me interview you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Alright, bye.
Bye.